A net worth of $250,000 might be the riskiest number in personal finance. That sounds extreme, but stick with me. Picture two friends, Marcus and Derek, both 34, both crossing the $250,000 mark in the same month. Same milestone. Same cheap bottle of champagne to celebrate. 6 months later, Derek gets rear-ended by a driver with no insurance, gets pulled into a lawsuit, and watches a third of his net worth vanish into a settlement his own auto policy never came close to covering. Marcus, facing the exact same kind of accident in a different version of events, walks away without losing a single dollar. The difference came down to one thing: Marcus was paying $32 a month for a piece of paper almost nobody has heard of. Both men did everything right on the way to $250,000. They saved consistently, invested wisely, and skipped the flashy car payment. But only one of them realized that the rulebook changes completely once you actually have something worth protecting. The exact habits that got you to $250,000 can quietly work against you if you don't level up. And almost nothing on the next list of purchases looks anything like wealth. I'm Root, and I've spent an unreasonable amount of time researching why some people break past six figures into real wealth while others stall out there indefinitely. If you're climbing toward that number and don't want to silently lose what you've built, subscribe now, because what's coming is the stuff nobody warns you about in your 20s. Before we get into it, let's frame what $250,000 actually represents in 2026. Per the Federal Reserve's latest survey of consumer finances, the median U.S. household net worth sits around $192,000. So crossing $250,000 already puts you in the top 25% of households nationally. Under 35? You're closer to the top 10% for your age bracket. That's the encouraging part. The less encouraging part: a Charles Schwab survey found 61% of Americans consider $250,000 the threshold for real financial freedom, yet only 14% of people ever actually reach it. Which means most of the people around you, friends, family, co-workers, have zero roadmap for what comes after. They just assume you'll keep doing exactly what you've been doing forever. That assumption is dangerous, because at $250,000, money starts to behave differently. It compounds on its own. It draws lawsuits. It triggers new tax exposure. And it turns you into a target for institutions that, very politely, want a cut. So here are the 7 things worth buying once you cross this line, starting with the purchase that saved Marcus. Number 1, umbrella insurance. I know the word insurance makes people want to click away, but stay with me, because the math here is wild. Umbrella insurance is extra liability coverage stacked on top of your home and auto policies. If you get sued for more than those policies cover, the umbrella picks up the rest. Here's where it gets absurd. The typical car insurance liability cap in the US is around $250,000 per person and $500,000 per accident, which sounds like plenty until you remember that a single ER visit, one surgery, or one serious injury claim can blow through that ceiling instantly. According to Progressive, a $1 million umbrella policy averages about $383 a year. NerdWallet says they can start as low as $200. Even in pricier states like Florida, expect $700 to $1,200 for a full $1 million in extra liability protection, roughly $1 a day, less than a gas station coffee. It's some of the cheapest protection per dollar covered that exists. And yes, you've probably never been sued, and you're a careful person. But the entire nature of catastrophic events is that you don't see them coming. Umbrella policies aren't really a rich person purchase, they're for people who are starting to actually own something worth taking. Below roughly $100,000 in net worth, attorneys generally aren't very interested in you, there's not much to recover. But cross $250,000 with a house, a brokerage account, retirement savings, and visible income, and you become what's politely termed a collectible defendant, meaning you're now worth suing. A dog bite at a neighbor's house, a teenager's fender bender, a guest who slips on your icy front steps and suddenly has a very convincing story about chronic back pain. Without an umbrella, every dollar above your home and auto limits is exposed. That's the coverage Marcus had. Derek didn't. Same kind of accident, completely different outcome. Umbrella insurance shields your money from outside threats. But the biggest danger to your $250,000 often isn't a stranger, it's the people you're told to trust. Number 2. Hire a fee-only fiduciary financial planner. I can already hear the objection route: I don't have enough money for a real advisor, that's a $5 million net worth thing. Here's the truth: the cost-benefit math flips entirely once you hit $250,000. Below that number, paying $2,500 for a financial plan eats a meaningful chunk of your net worth. Above it, the math reverses. A solid one-time comprehensive plan generally runs $1,500 to $3,500. Hourly fee-only planners typically charge $200 to $400 an hour. Simply optimizing how your money is split across taxable, traditional, and Roth accounts can save more than 1% a year in long-term tax drag on a $250,000 portfolio. That's $2,500 annually. The plan pays for itself in year 1, then keeps paying you indefinitely. Now, an important distinction, because this is where people get burned: there's a massive gap between a fee-only fiduciary and what most people call a financial advisor. A fee-only fiduciary is paid exclusively by you, no commissions, no product kickbacks, no hidden incentives. They're legally bound to act in your best interest. A commission-based advisor, by contrast, earns money by selling you products. So when a 25-year-old in a too shiny blazer at a big-name brokerage offers you a free portfolio review, what's really happening is that you are the product. They profit when you buy what they're pushing, often whole life insurance, annuities, or actively managed funds loaded with hidden fees that quietly erode your returns for the next 3 decades. Search the exact phrase "fee-only fiduciary" near me. That phrase is the cheat code. If someone can't say "I am a fee-only fiduciary" without dodging the question, walk away. Number 3. A real tax strategy, which usually means hiring a CPA. Taxes are the single biggest expense in your life, larger than rent, mortgage, car payments, and groceries combined. Most people around the $250,000 mark are still filing through TurboTax at 11 p.m. the night before the deadline, eating cold pizza, Googling what counts as a deduction. That's fine, except it means leaving thousands of dollars on the table every year. Quick math: if you have a high-deductible health plan, the 2026 HSA contribution limit is $4,400 for individuals and $8,750 for families. The HSA is the only triple tax-advantaged account around: deductible going in, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals for medical costs. Skip maxing it out, and you're essentially handing the IRS free money. Then there's the mega backdoor Roth, which sounds like a wrestling move but is actually one of the most underused wealth-building tools out there. If your 401k plan allows after-tax contributions and in-plan conversions, you can funnel tens of thousands of extra dollars annually into a Roth account and let it grow completely tax-free for life. There's also the backdoor Roth IRA, for anyone earning above $168,000 single or $252,000 married, because at that income, direct Roth contributions are no longer allowed. So you go through the side door instead, which is fully legal, and the IRS is well aware it happens. Finally, tax loss harvesting, selling positions that are down to offset gains elsewhere. The IRS allows you to deduct up to $3,000 of ordinary income per year this way, plus unlimited capital gains offsets. Marcus hired a CPA his first year at $250,000. It cost him $1,400. That CPA found him an extra $4,300 in deductions and tax savings in year 1 alone, already paid for himself 3 times over, and that's before year 2 even starts. Moving from a TurboTax mindset to a CPA mindset is one of those small upgrades that quietly compounds for the rest of your life. Number 4. Let me tell you about the worst day for someone I knew back in 2008. He had a $300,000 portfolio, no cash cushion, and just got laid off from a job he thought was permanent. He needed to cover his mortgage, car payment, and groceries while job hunting. So he sold $25,000 worth of stock at the absolute bottom of the financial crisis, stock he'd specifically bought to hold for 30 years. That $25,000, had he stayed invested through the recovery, would be worth roughly $140,000 today. He sold at the worst possible moment because he had no choice. That's exactly why you need a real emergency fund, not the $1,000 starter fund people talk about in their early 20s, but a genuine one: 6 to 12 months of expenses, sitting in a high-yield savings account or short-term treasuries, doing nothing particularly exciting. And before you say cash is trash, I get it. Sitting in cash feels almost wrong after years of training yourself to invest every spare dollar. But here's the thing, you likely built your $250,000 during one of the strongest market stretches in modern history. You haven't really been tested yet. Research on wealth distribution shows the typical household with $1 to $2 million in net worth has around 66% of that wealth tied up in their primary home and retirement accounts. They look wealthy on paper, but their actual cash position is often embarrassingly thin. So when life throws a punch, they end up forced into the exact same move that guy made back in 2008. High-yield savings accounts are paying roughly 3.8% to 4.5% in 2026, and short-term treasuries pay similarly. Your cash isn't even sitting idle anymore. Your emergency fund isn't dragging down your portfolio, it's the insurance that lets the other 90% of your money stay invested through chaos. At $250,000, your job is to never be forced to sell. Number 5. Let me introduce you to a man I'll call Wesley. Wesley was 39, divorced, with 2 kids, no will, no trust, no power of attorney, nothing. He'd built his net worth to about $340,000 through 15 years of disciplined investing. He died suddenly in a skiing accident on a Tuesday. His family spent the next 11 months in a fluorescent-lit probate courtroom, arguing with a clerk. By the time it was all settled, $19,000 of his estate had disappeared into court fees, attorney fees, and administrative costs. His specific wishes about who got what became public record. His ex-wife and his current girlfriend stopped speaking. His kids were caught in the middle. That's what dying without an estate plan actually looks like, and it happens to people in their 30s and 40s far more often than anyone wants to admit. Wesley, incidentally, was exactly the type of person who told himself every January that he'd finally handle his estate planning that year. Number 5 is an estate plan, a revocable living trust, a pour-over will, a durable power of attorney, and a healthcare directive, the full kit. Probate in most states takes anywhere from 6 months to 2 years and eats up 3% to 7% of the total estate in fees. Every document becomes public record, meaning a nosy neighbor can look up exactly what you left behind and to whom. A trust skips probate entirely. Assets transfer privately, quickly, and exactly according to what you put in writing. You can DIY one for around $400 through legitimate online platforms, or pay an estate attorney $1,500 to $3,000 for the full package, which I genuinely recommend if you own real estate or have people depending on you. A trust isn't about being old. It's about not leaving your family a logistical nightmare during the worst week of their lives. Once you have real assets, this stops being optional, it's just deferred work that gets dramatically more expensive once it's no longer your problem to solve. Number 6, income protection, specifically term life insurance and disability insurance, if anyone depends on you financially. If you're single with no dependents, I know you're tuning out right now. Hold on, because disability insurance still applies to you. We'll get there. Let's talk term life insurance first. Not whole life, not universal life, not indexed universal life, term. The reason is brutal. Whole life policies pay the salesperson, the guy in the slightly too shiny suit at the dinner seminar, a commission that's typically 50% to 110% of your first year premium. Term life pays that same person maybe a tenth of that. Guess which one gets pushed harder? A 20 or 30-year level term policy for $1 million typically costs a healthy 35-year-old somewhere between $30 and $60 a month. The equivalent whole life policy would run you 8 to 12 times that. General rule of thumb, carry 10 to 12 times your annual income in coverage. Make $100,000? You want roughly $1 million of coverage. Now, disability insurance. Statistically, if you're under 50, you're far more likely to become disabled than to die. If your paycheck disappears for 2 years because of a back injury or chronic illness, your entire wealth-building plan grinds to a halt. Most employers offer some short-term disability coverage, but the gap between that and full long-term protection is enormous. A private long-term disability policy is often surprisingly affordable, and it's the move that keeps your $250,000 from quietly shrinking to $80,000 while you're recovering. The whole point of insurance isn't to make you rich, it's to make sure one bad event doesn't undo everything you've already built. Last one, and it might be the most important item on this entire list, because none of it matters if you're too burned out to enjoy any of it. Number 7. Buy back your time. Once you cross $250,000, your time becomes worth dramatically more than it used to be. Quick math: if you earn $200,000 a year and work roughly 2,000 hours, your time is worth about $100 an hour. That means every Saturday you spend mowing your own lawn for 4 hours, you're effectively paying yourself $400 in opportunity cost to do something a teenager would happily do for $50. Same logic applies to cleaning your house, or driving 40 minutes round trip to the grocery store, or answering 200 emails for a side hustle that a virtual assistant could handle for $15 to $30 an hour. A house cleaner typically runs $100 to $200 a visit. Lawn service runs $30 to $60 a visit. Grocery delivery costs $5 to $10 plus a tip, versus the 90 minutes you'd otherwise spend doing it yourself. None of these purchases feel impressive. None of them are glamorous. But every hour you buy back is an hour you can redirect towards something that actually compounds. Think back to Marcus. He outsourced his lawn for $50 a week, freeing up roughly 4 hours every Saturday. He used that time to build a side income stream that now brings in $40,000 a year. That lawn service wasn't really an expense, it was seed capital for a business. Derek kept mowing his own lawn every Saturday, convinced he was saving $50. That savings conservatively cost him around $35,000 a year in lost compounding opportunity. To be fair, buying back your time only pays off if you actually spend the freed up hours on something valuable: deep work, a side income stream, your kids, exercise, sleep, or simply not being completely exhausted by Tuesday. If you outsource your lawn just to spend 4 extra hours doom scrolling on Sunday, you've paid $60 to feel marginally less guilty about being tired. Here's the reframe: this isn't lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep means upgrading your car, your apartment, your wardrobe in ways that lock in a permanently higher burn rate. Buying back your time is the opposite: it frees up the one resource you can never get more of. So here's what connects all 7 of these. Once you notice it, you can't unsee it. None of these purchases make you feel wealthy. There's no photo opportunity for just bought umbrella insurance. Nobody's posting their revocable living trust on Instagram. Maxing out your HSA isn't getting you a match on a dating app. But every single item on this list does the same job: closing the silent leaks in your financial life. The first $250,000 gets built on offense: saving, earning, investing, simply getting in the game. The next $250,000 gets built on defense: protecting what you've built from lawsuits, taxes, probate, your own panic during a downturn, and the slow grind of your time getting nickel and dimed every single week. And if all of this sounds like more work than you have time for, here's the reassurance: you don't have to tackle it all at once, and you definitely don't have to finish it in a year. Pick one item, knock it out, then move to the next. The people who eventually hit $1 million aren't the ones who did everything flawlessly, they're the ones who didn't quit when it got boring. So here's where Marcus and Derek ended up. Same starting point, same income, same milestone. Marcus is 44 now. He spent his early 30s checking items off this list: one unglamorous weekend at a time, umbrella policy in year 1, CPA in year 2, trust in term life in year 3, a real emergency fund by year 4. He outsourced his lawn care and reclaimed roughly 200 hours a year, which he poured into a side business now generating $40,000 annually. His net worth sits around $850,000. He's not stressed. He's not lying awake at night. Derek, on the other hand, never got around to any of it. He kept telling himself he'd handle it next year. He went through a divorce at 37 with no prenup, which cost him $60,000 over 2 years. He got hit with a surprise tax bill at 39 because nobody had told him about the backdoor Roth. He never moved his cash, so when his roof failed in 2024, he sold $18,000 in stock at the worst possible moment to cover the repair. He's 44 now, and his net worth sits around $190,000. Same starting point. Same income. Completely different defense. Look, $250,000 is a genuinely massive milestone. You're already ahead of decades of compounding for most people, sitting in the top quarter of U.S. households. But picture this, 10 years from now, you're 44. The market just had its worst year in a decade. Your portfolio is down 30%. Most of your peer group is panicking, selling at the bottom, refinancing into bad rates because they never saw it coming. You're sitting at your kitchen table on a quiet Sunday morning with a cup of coffee, watching the news, and feeling nothing close to panic. No frantic phone calls. No spiraling. Because 10 years earlier, you spent 6 unremarkable weekends doing the unglamorous work that almost nobody bothers to finish. That's what $250,000 actually buys you. Not freedom from the market, freedom from caring what it does. Pick one item off this list this month. Start there. See you in the next one.